If you have a leak on the floor at the base of your toilet, most likely you have a bad wax ring. And so I'm going to go through the steps on how to replace it. And for this project, you should just need two tools, an adjustable wrench and an adjustable pliers. So we'll go through the steps, and the first thing we're going to want to do is turn off the shutoff valve to the tank. I turned off the shutoff valve going to the tank, and the next thing we're going to want to do is flush the tank, get all the water out of here. I'm going to use a sponge to mop up all the excess water, and then I'm also going to take a plunger and get all the excess water out of the bowl. So I removed most of the water from the bowl using a plunger, and I used a sponge and got the water out of the tank. Now I'm going to put a small dish or pan underneath the valve, and I'm going to loosen the nut on the supply line that connects the supply line to the tank. And it might drip a little bit, so it's good to have a little pail or something underneath there. And now the next thing we're going to do is remove the two nuts from the bolts holding the toilet to the floor. And what I did was, about a half an hour or so, I put a little bit of a penetrating oil on the bolts, and hopefully that will loosen them up. So now all you need is an adjustable wrench, and we're just going to loosen the nuts, hopefully, on both sides. So it's coming free, so I'll unscrew this on both sides. Now, if this wouldn't break free, and if this was completely rusted, what you could do is take a hacksaw blade and come straight down along the side of the bolt itself and cut right through the nut. So I'll remove the nuts on both sides. So this has become a troubleshooting video. This nut came off pretty easily, and on the other side what's happening is the whole bolt and the nut are spinning, so it's not grabbing hold of the flange. So what we're going to have to do is cut off the nut on the other side. So what I'm going to use is just a hacksaw blade all by itself. I'm going to hold it with a pair of leather gloves, and I'm going to hold the top of the bolt and nut with a pair of locking pliers. Because this is such a narrow area, I'm not going to be able to show you, but basically I'm just going to be holding on to the top of it with the locking pliers, and then by hand I'm going to saw right through the bolt. So if you have a bolt that's just spinning and you can't get the nut off and there's nothing to grab on top, just grab it with a locking pliers and you're just going to have to hack it through. The next step, we're going to remove the toilet, and I put down a couple rags and we're just going to move the toilet onto that. And you need to be careful if you're on tile, porcelain, you don't want to crack anything. So this is what's left of the old wax ring, and this one had a flange on it. So we're going to remove the flange and catch some of this so it doesn't go in the main drain. And now I'm just going to take a scraper and I'm going to remove all the old wax and clean this up. So I have most of this cleaned up, but the wax ring allowed a little bit of moisture to weep out here. So what I'm going to do is just take 100% distilled white vinegar, undiluted, in a spray bottle, and just spray the area, let it set 15-20 minutes, and that's going to kill a lot of the germs. Okay, so you saw what a hassle it was on this bolt here. We actually had to cut it off because the nut rusted to the bolt itself, and then the whole bolt was spinning underneath this flange, so we couldn't remove it. So a trick I like to do is buy an additional stainless steel washer and a stainless steel nut, and I'm just going to attach this toilet bolt right to the flange, and I'm going to tighten it down on both sides, and then when I put my toilet on, not only will it stay in place for me, making it easier to seat the toilet, but in the future if I ever have to remove it, it's going to be very easy to remove that nut. Alright, now I'm going to put the new toilet gasket down, and you can see the problems we had with the old wax. And if you have a toilet that moves a little bit, you're going to compress the wax and it does not spring back, so you're going to have a leak. And also, if you have a clog and you plunge your toilet, you can actually break the wax ring and cause a leak. So what I've been using is this Sani Seal. It's a non-wax toilet gasket. It has a lifetime guarantee, and it springs back to shape. It just does a fantastic job of sealing the toilet, and what's nice is it's a little bit wider than a regular wax ring, and so the toilet bolts go right through it. And now we locked ours in place, but if you didn't have it locked in place, it actually helps hold the toilet bolts. And you can use this whether you're 3/8 of an inch above your tile or 3/8 of an inch below. And you can stack them. If you have your flange lower than the tile and lower than 3/8 from the surface, you can stack two of these on top of each other. So we'll set this in place. And what I did was check the bottom of the toilet and remove any wax from there. And now we're just going to seat it on top of our Sani seal. So now we're just lining up our bolts and dropping the toilet straight down. So I'm going to tighten down the toilet now. And another tip is I like a stainless steel washer, and I also got a thin rubber washer to put under it to protect the porcelain. So now I'm just going to tighten this down on both sides. One thing you can do is you can have somebody sit on the toilet if you have a helper, and if you don't, then you can just lay on the toilet, tighten one side slightly, and alternate between the two nuts. So I turned the valve on, I filled the tank, and flushed it a couple times just to make sure it wasn't leaking anymore. And that's all there is to reseat a toilet.